I was experiencing like crazy vertigo, panic attacks,
Yeah.
like migraines. I could not sleep an hour and a half, maybe 3 hours on a good night. But I would wake up posturing like
Man.
this. Everything was in pain, and it was I couldn't remember the nightmare, but I woke up extremely triggered, heart racing, sweats. That's how I would wake up, and I was angry. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. And we have another very special guest on the show this week. He is a highly decorated Green Beret. He retired as a Master Sergeant. And right now, he is leading the Task Force Dagger, which is a extremely wonderful program that helps out people from all across the military whenever they're running into issues, gaps in cares, anything like that. And in fact, whenever I was in between my sixth and seventh deployment, I was having a difficulty getting connected with some medical resources. Task Force Dagger swooped in, and they were super instrumental in getting me checked out, thoroughly evaluated. And it was them that really put me on the path to really advocate for my health, advocate for the medical things that I needed. And they did everything they could to set me up for success. And they're helping out people all around the world. He was definitely at the pinnacle of his profession as a Green Beret. And now he's leading a new fight for warfighter health. So, Mr. Dardia, would you mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background and what brings you here?
Grew up in Maine, mostly on the coast. Grew up outdoors, surfing, mountain biking, skiing, kayaking, fishing, whole deal. Very outdoor centered and adventurous, right? I was always the adrenaline junkie growing up and always had a sense of service. So I knew I was going to join the military far back as I can remember. Wasn't until like junior high school I knew what capacity go to be a commando. Graduated high school, I played lacrosse, soccer, hockey, and did that whole thing. And then it's like time to get out of here, time to go do some stuff, and joined with a buds contract at 19 years old. I was in delayed entry at 17. I took a year off because I knew what I was going to go do to prepare. So I spent a year running and swimming and getting ready for that, and joined up, went straight in, graduated basic training, went to A school, screened again, got accepted, went to buds. I started in May of 97 when I checked in, went all the way through first, second, third phase, and then started having some residual medical effects after some stuff that happened to me in Hell Week. I got put on some heavy antibiotics and didn't know at the time that I couldn't take those types of medications. So caused a lot of tendon, ligament, connective tissue damage, methylation deficiency, MTHFR. Didn't know what it was at the time until later I got genetically tested for it. And they're like, hey, did you have problems with X, Y, and Z? I was like, matter of fact, I did. Ended my Navy career. So,
Wow.
I wasn't getting better in PTR when I got recycled. Then I classed back up. I was like, get me out of here. Got almost all the way through my last few weeks in. It got to the point where I couldn't even walk anymore. I was getting carried off the beach, and I had arthritis in my hip, I had a bunch of torn ligaments, torn tendons. I ended up getting medically discharged out of the Navy at 21 years old, right? And talk about massive blow to ego. It was like I didn't have a backup plan. It was death or graduation. So I didn't really think far past of not making it. That was never an option to me. And growing up in the environment I grew up in, it was always like, you won't fail. Like,
Right.
my father was always adamant about following through with things, doing things the right way, not out of a place of you're not good enough, but as a place where he grew up dirt poor with nothing and didn't want us to grow up in the same fashion. So it was really beat into us from a young age to, give everything you got 100% wherever you go and don't give up. So, I mean, that carried out to everything I did the rest of my life. So nothing on that side, but it was like, when I had to leave that place, one, I didn't have a backup plan. I tied my identity to being a Navy SEAL, right? And when that didn't work out, it was like not in a good spot, right? So I knew I had to get back home to Maine. It was my foundation. That's my safety net, right? Like family, friends, everything outdoors. And really had to do some soul searching, right? Process all those things. And I was like, I'm going back. I was like, I have to do this. This is going to be a burning hole in me if I don't. So I started rehabbing. The VA was sending me bottles of pills. I was, I think, 60, 80% disabled. Voc rehab, going to college. I had everything made. According to everyone else, I had it made because I had all my benefits, but I was miserable. But I was really just like focused on I need to go finish what I started because I knew it was eating a hole in me. Talk about reoccurring dreams. It was all the signs and symptoms of PTSD. I had never seen any war or deployed or did anything. I didn't even know what PTSD was at the time, but it was a loss, good, bad, or indifferent. It was a major event in my life that changed me forever. And it wasn't until later where the post traumatic growth occurred that figure out, hey, your why and your purpose and your gift. But I got myself back in. It wasn't easy. After September 11th, things got a little looser, but I ended up coming in the Army. And then
Mhm.
another contract, I came in the 18 X-ray program to be a Green Beret. It's the only reason I wanted to join the Army. They made me go in the reserves for a few months before, but I knew what I wanted to do and I went and did it and made it all the way through. No recycles, no hiccups, no mistraining, and got to a team. And then I literally graduated SEER school and then I did a quick train up at Mid South and went straight overseas. So did 3 back-to-back deployments. And it wasn't until I started taking mefloquine when I was overseas that all of a sudden I started having very similar symptoms pop back in me of like the anxiety, the nerve pain, the crazy dreams. I was like, what the hell is this happening again? It was like
Mhm.
flashbacks. I'm like, nope, like I don't want this happening again to me. Where I'm at like the pinnacle of my career, and all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from underneath me. And I came back in 2007 after my second deployment, and I went through Sephardic. I literally got off the bird from Green Ramp, came and checked into Sephardic and went through 9 weeks of that with no, I didn't have any break, not even like 2 days of break. I literally started right when I got back. Graduated Sephardic, went straight into Cephalic because my team was going through. For those that don't know what any of this is, advanced urban combat, CQB, explosive breaching stuff. But high intensity training, high stress, zero fail. If you fuck this up, you're done, right? Type schools. Came out of Cephalic. We did like 3 PMTs that year. We were out at NTC, Mountain Warfare Training Center, Hawthorne, Nevada. We went to the Bahamas, did a dive requal. I wasn't home that entire year. So you can figure that your significant other probably not too happy about that. So facing a divorce. And then right before the deployment, we got a new team leader and said, hey, we're going back to Cephalic again. 2 Cephalic, Sephardic, and about 3, 4 PMTs in 1 year and a divorce. It was not cool. Like I was falling apart. Did my thank God for my '09 deployment. That probably saved my life. But I came back from that '09 deployment, was like, here's your kid, I'm out of here. Good luck. A whole bunch of other stuff happened, but I was not in a good place, man. And I kind of knew what was going on because of what happened to me before. Thank God what happened to me before happened because it prepared me for what I was about to go through. So '09, I get sent to be a Cephalic instructor. Uh, so imagine that, right? I told you I just got my head blown in for a couple of years and then go work at a schoolhouse full of heavy metals and blast over pressure with
Right.
a brain that was already pretty beat up. So it wasn't until I stopped deploying that I realized how bad I was. Everyone else could notice it before me. I was the last one to figure it out. But I felt like I was dragged around a shell of a body. I was not present. My mind was always somewhere else. Parts of my day would be completely gone. Migraine, headaches, massive amounts of pain, fatigue, memory loss. Like I was just like, what the hell is going on? And when I finally decided to tell somebody what was going on, they're like, oh yeah, you probably have PTSD or you're stressed, you're depressed, take some meds, you'll be fine. And I was like, no, I don't think that's what that is. I think there's a little more to this. Yeah, I feel that way, but I shouldn't feel that way. I've got everything in my life where I want it, right? So I started doing a little homework about all the signs and symptoms I had, being the little problem solver that I am. And everything came back as traumatic brain injury, neurotoxicity, mitochondrial dysfunction, all those things kept popping up. And I'm like, okay, what are these things? Where are they in the environment? When I started looking, it was everything I'd been exposed to. I was like, okay, I can check every single one of these boxes. Heavy metals, solvents, radiation. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
went down the whole list: blast
Yeah.
over, impact concussions, sleep deprivation, chronic stress, traumatic stress. All of it was there. And I was like, all these things have a known effect on the body. I'm like, well, I guarantee you, if I was exposed to all those things, I know what that damage looks like in the body and how to get it tested. I looked up all the types of diagnostic tests to do to look for those things and went and asked my battalion provider to start running some labs and running some diagnostics. And everything came back normal. And the first doc I was working with, I'm still in contact with now. He's like, if we keep looking, we're going to find things that are wrong. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, well, I'm telling you what's wrong. Like, I didn't just randomly pick these things up out of my ass. I was
Yeah.
like, I literally am suffering through all of these things. And then it was like, oh, you're just a one off. You're the canary in the coal mine, right? Like, I heard that so many times. There's a funny story about canaries in coal mines with heavy metals and toxins and toxic gases, right? So I had
Yeah.
MTHFR, didn't know it at the time, but I'm 5'5", right? So I'm not a big dude. I have low storage space. So more toxins have that ratio of body weight composition with atmospheric exposure is going to be more concentrated in a smaller area, right? You have less distribution.
It's a really
So
good point.
I had everything going against me, right? And I was working in a highly contaminated range facility. So I had everything. And finally, it was like, if I have this, I guarantee you other people have this. So started having the conversation. I started my soft health awareness page on Facebook and started talking to other people and sharing this information. And then it was one of those things where it was like, who is this dude? Shut the fuck up. Don't talk about these things. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then once you help enough people and enough people get tested and find all the same things, it's kind of hard to put that genie back in the lamp, right? So 2012, after going through all my treatments, going through NICO, figuring out all the heavy metal stuff, working with a functional medicine provider, I'm like, I got to do something about this. So I was like, I'm not the only one. So I was fortunate enough to let the foundation allowed me and gave me the opportunity to start that program, the SOF Health Initiatives program. That's the program I founded. I didn't found the foundation, but I founded the Health Initiatives program, one of three programs there. But and started getting out there proactively, not chasing ambulances, but getting out there with the education and be like, look, guys, it goes right back to like being an 18 Fox, force protection, intelligence preparation, the battlefield mission analysis. Like, if we know this stuff's out there, we better protect ourselves, right? That's IPB. And we know the environment, we know the effects, which develop control measures and implement them. That's risk management. So it's like identify
Yeah.
hazards, assess, develop controls, implement them, that whole thing that we're forced to do with everything. We
Right.
didn't do it for health and wellness. We did it with training,
Yeah.
operations, but we never did it for ourselves. So I basically built a program around all those principles: force health protection, risk management, mission analysis, IPE, IPB. Like, that was it. I took health and wellness and put it in a language everyone in the military understood. And once I did that, it was like what people think is a highly complex issue: suicide, cancer, operator syndrome stuff, and then simplify it down into the most easiest form to regurgitate, right? And it's like, hey, an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is normal behavior. So if we're exposing people to these elements and we know there's known effects to them, it's going to have a known result, right? And so all that we're experiences, those are responses to our environment. And so we were calling them all diseases. Like, it randomly appeared out of nowhere that all these people were feeling depressed, anxious, angry, apathetic, chronic inflammation, stomach issues. Any of that was random. And like the disease fairy came down and gave it to them. Like, oh, poof. Sorry, dude. Shit genes. You know what I mean? Like, it was total bullshit. It was actually pretty damn simple when you looked at it. And
Right.
it's too much for too long. And the body gets exhausted. The mind gets exhausted. There's no difference between either one of those. Usually the body quits first, right? And then the mind. And so the bottom line is, if there's no recovery or no bouncing back, definition of resiliency, then you're going to break. There's just a point. Everyone's got a different breaking point, right? Psychologically and physiologically. What do our assessment and selection processes do? They want to see what your breaking point is if you break, right? So they know when they assess and select us exactly what they're looking for. And they're looking for people who don't quit, who can endure, who can compartmentalize, who can problem solve. And who's best suited for that? Kids who grew up with adverse childhoods, right? So,
Right.
yeah, that's where it comes down to, man. And it's like we keep playing dumb with all these things, like we don't know what this is, but it's really simple. Sounds like I'm oversimplifying, but I'm not.
No, I mean, I'm resonating with it a lot because some of the things that you're saying is everyone knows that we're pushing ourselves to the limit. Like,
Yeah,
that's the baseline. That's the baseline. That's how you get selected. Is
exactly.
like you said, you find those limits. And then senior leadership, people on the back end,
Yeah.
once they get presented with a problem, it's like, oh, this is weird. How come we have people who are breaking? I don't get it. You did like 4 back-to-back deployments, 3 back-to-back deployments with selection, with
Yeah.
all these things, going through these long periods of time away from home, having that impact your relationships. So, I mean, you did a great job of encapsulating, like, outside of what Hollywood paints our, like, job as,
The
you know?
non-sexy stuff. Yeah.
Right. It's just the grind, and it's constantly in that bubble of being over scrutinized,
Yeah.
over analyzed. You're always watched. Everything always has to be perfect at all times. And
Yeah.
just like you said, like, there's only so much every single body can do before it starts breaking down.
Yeah.
And so, whenever this was occurring to you, did you feel like you were being betrayed by your leadership or by the system whenever you did present and you're like, hey, man, I'm screwed up. Can you please help me out with this? I don't know what's going on. I need to see a doc.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you were feeling or what was going on during
So
that period?
I can, and I was actually going to talk about that, but I mean, it's a
Oh,
good
my
point,
bad.
right? Think about from someone who's never experienced anything like that. I got medically discharged out of the Navy. I was a disabled veteran with benefits, voc rehab, going to college, had a small business, and worked for Red Bull. Okay. I gave
Nice.
all of that up to come back in the military. Do you think I was hunting for disability ratings or looking for a way out of anything whatsoever?
Right.
Absolutely not. But you know what? If you don't know somebody, you're going to judge, right? So,
Right.
like, I had to explain myself 100 times, but there was a ton of betrayal, and mostly from the medical community, not necessarily SF leadership, right? I mean, your track record, your performance overseas speaks for itself. I wasn't trying to get out of anything. I was always trying to get into something, right? So
Right.
it's not like I ever said no to a school or a training opportunity or a deployment. Not
Right.
until later in my career when I was severely messed up. But it was like one of those things where it's like, what are you trying to accomplish here? What do you want? I'm like, look, dude, you tell it. I have a tab on my shoulder. It says special forces, right? It doesn't say good enough. It doesn't say average. It doesn't say the mean, right? Every day you have to earn that damn tab. And you expect me to perform here. But if my health is down here, how the hell am I going to do that? And what happened to me in the Navy taught me don't keep your mouth shut. Let someone know what's going on. Don't hide that. And so I see medicine as proactive and preventative. I was trying to use it as maintenance to figure out what was wrong to keep myself healthy so I didn't get medically retired and discharged again. And
Right.
so the military doesn't see it that way. They see malingering, they see whatever. And it wasn't until I was able to articulate that clearly with people what my intent was that I was like, oh, this dude's not trying to get testosterone. He's not trying to get on a profile. And by the way, I was never on a profile my entire career until the last 2 years before my medical retirement, right? Like that was it. It was a tough fight, but I'm telling you, it goes back to that, what I was telling you before. Those that have a why to live can bear anyhow, right?
Mhm.
I knew what my purpose was after what happened to me, that I could help way more people here with the program that I started than I ever could overseas training jundies, right? Like I knew that. And at that age, I was a little older than the average bear coming. I came back in when I was 26. But imagine trying to explain that to younger dudes who are like, I'm indestructible. That shit doesn't apply to me. Whatever, old man. Like, there's always that person that's in there. But in reality, I do this every day for a living. Trust me, my calendar's full with dudes that are O5s, O6s, and Sergeant Majors and CSMs that are coming unglued once they lost their duty position in the military.
Mhm.
Everything they use the military to distract them from all their bullshit in their life is full force when they're home with no mission, purpose, focus, and identity. And that's the aha moment. Oh shit, dude. When you were trying to do all that and say all that, I wasn't even ready in receive mode. I was trying to gun for the next position or whatever it was. But when they come out, the light bulb moment goes, aha. Then they're like, okay, dude, I get it. Sorry if I didn't listen to you or blew you off or whatever. But I don't take any offense to that. I was the same way when I was in the Navy. I was indestructible. I was apathetic as hell, didn't sympathize or empathize with anybody. I was like, you're a pussy, you're weak, you're fat. Like, we've all been there, right? Like,
Right.
and guilty as charged. I'm not going to deny that. But I was humbled at a young age. And that, what I thought was the worst thing ever to happen to me in my entire life, ended up being the biggest blessing, right? Silver lining of, okay, dude, put the ego aside, make sure you do things for the right reason, have a backup plan. And that's something that I learned. I didn't share that with many people until later in my life, but I had a lot of soul searching to do and a lot of ego death And then come to find out later down the road, that process never stops. You're always growing, you're always learning, and you're always suffering, right? Without suffering, there's no growth. You'll be stagnant. So
Right.
you're going to be uncomfortable, and it's learning to sit with that pain, that suffering, that being uncomfortable is where you get the most amount of growth in your life, right? And so that's the maturity, that's the graybeard, that you can't
Yeah.
train. You can only learn through experience doing that, right? You
Mhm.
can tell people all you want, but until they experience it themselves, they're not going to relate to you. So it was like, the stigmata, everything bad that happened to me was able to turn into something positive to help other people. So no regrets, wouldn't change a damn thing. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. So that's some really deep stuff. And I feel you there. It took me a while to get to the point where I was like, I'm okay with all this stuff that I went through because I felt like it was unnecessary. Like
yeah,
we have all the systems in place. I was asking specifically for what I believed I needed, and I was being gaslit. I was being told things like it's all in your head. In
nothing
fact,
wrong with you. You look fine.
yeah, like I mean, I just promoted to chief. I was feeling great. I was putting in my officer's package. Like my career was lining up. I was getting my back into the reserves, and had a like a other government agency contract position lined up really nice.
Yeah.
Everything was falling into place. I felt like I was at the pinnacle of my career in my prime, but my body was catching up and was actually breaking down.
Yeah.
And I was putting on too many band-aids and not really treating the deep symptoms and moving forward. So you went through this as a personal investigation and you were able to get some comprehensive testing at Walter Reed and Cleveland Clinic.
I,
And
yeah.
that kind of
Everywhere.
helped. Awesome. And that
Yeah.
kind of pointed to like an aha moment, or can you tell us about that?
That was like the validation, right? Before I went to NICO working with a functional medicine provider, I was able to get a bunch of civilian labs done. And the civilian lab showed everything: the heavy metals, the hormones, the gut inflammation, the thyroid issues. And if you just take that to a military provider, like, oh, it's bullshit. It's a silly test. No one recognized it. So I went and repeated everything with all the military labs. Everything came back the same exact way, right? Got EGDs, scoped, colonoscopy. Everything was ulcerated, leaky gut, like everything was there. And then I went up to Mount Sinai Research Hospital and got the KXRF bone lead x-rays. My bones were packed full of lead. That was like literally the smoking gun, right? That was like, okay, no denying this is one of the premier research hospitals in the United States. It's showing that this is in here, it's having a known effect on you. And so that was like right there was like the turning point of, hey man, this dude had literally every single one of these things he was telling him, being gaslit like a mofo. The saying, oh, this isn't a big deal. We've already looked at this problem. It's not an issue. Like, look over here, like total gaslighting, like you said. But that was like the validation. That was it. After that point, I went from the guy tilting windmills and being a quack guy, pseudoscience, snake oil salesman to,
Yep.
hey, this dude knows what he's talking about. Have him come talk to your docs. I started teaching and educating, going out advising. I helped with the mefloquine stuff with Dr. Remington Nevin and did a bunch of stuff with Boone Cutler. Got out there in some podcasts and then started writing, got published in a couple articles, and then wrote a couple scientific papers. So it was like once I had that bona fides, it wasn't, oh, what are this guy's credentials? He doesn't know what he's talking about, to, hey, man, come talk to us. Tell us what's going on. So I went from the alarm bell to the advisor, right? And literally, I ran the operation like UW, like 7 phases. That's literally how I did my campaign. I literally wrote it out in a notebook. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get the public support? How am I going to change the view on this? How am I going to overthrow this system that's not serving us? And literally wrote it out just like that. You don't get anywhere by being anti anything. I'm not a show everyone the problem, provide the solution, right? So
Right.
I'm not going to go out and say, oh, you're poisoning us, you're screwing us up. It's like, hey, dude, this is what we can implement right now to fix this problem. And even with that, there were still some people dragging their feet. They're like, look, dude, we don't have a solution for this problem now. So don't talk about this until we find a solution. I'm like, that's not the answer because dudes are killing themselves. I lost more friends to cancer and suicide than I ever did combat. And I
Right.
was done. That was my moral injury. That was my trauma. Nothing I did more kept me up at night. It was, losing people that we could have saved. That was like the big moral dilemma of I need to do something. I need to do more. And
Big
that's what
time.
kept me up at night, literally answering the phone at 2 or 3 in the morning with people coming unglued, and figured out, after, let's see, 2012 started that officially until 2023 when I went through STAR. I had to go to STAR. Like mentally, I was done. I couldn't compartmentalize anymore and started getting dysautonomia. And just from the stress, my nervous system couldn't regulate stress anymore. And it was because of that. I was compartmentalizing all the loss. And it wasn't until my
Right.
one of my soldiers and friend died of cancer and I had to bury him. I watched him go from a friggin' stud to a living skeleton and spoke at his funeral. And they did 21 gun salute in taps, dude. I about had a seizure. And I was like, oh, I guess I know what this is because I help people with it every day. I guess it's my turn in the shoot, And it was like, okay, let's go. It's time to go. So I went up there and that's where I did all my ketamine therapy and psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, did all the therapies
That's
and
great.
processed a lot of shit that was stuffed back there, emotional constipation.
Right.
And was able to get my life back and feel better and take that weight off me. So
Yeah.
it definitely needs to be done. As much physical, recovery you do, you have to do psychological recovery as well. So mental
Big,
fitness.
big time. And I think that it's something that is not talked about enough. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. I mean, I was in crisis. My body was breaking down in ways that I didn't even understand. I had physiological problems with me that I didn't even know. Even though I knew the known ones, there were still layers of the unknown. And even my peers, medics, SOIDCs, they've been through the Green Beret Delta program, or at least even the first part. I had friends on both, that have done both, but there's only so much that we can see and in the moment. And I was experiencing like crazy vertigo, panic attacks,
Yeah.
like migraines. I could not sleep an hour and a half, maybe 3 hours on a good night, but I would wake up posturing like
Man.
like this. Everything was in pain, and it was I couldn't remember the nightmare, but I woke up extremely triggered, heart racing, sweats. That's how I would wake up, and I was angry because I'm like, I gave better medical care to Afghanis in Afghanistan, and here I am, a veteran who's paid into this insurance system this entire time, and they're not even helping me sleep. And so, like, I finally got to have a talk with, like, 15 minutes with Mike Boss, who's the chairman of the VA committee, and kind of like you said, giving some practical solutions. Like, what do we have now that is like known care? We don't have to do any new approvals. And a stellate ganglion block, the material cost for a stellate ganglion block is like less than $50.
Yeah.
Like, if we have people that are starting to hit these acute phases of crisis, why isn't that your IFAC? You've got it, your tourniquet, whatever you want to call it, but it's right there on hand. It's like, okay, cool. We already know that people are going to have these situations. Let's get them a stellate ganglion block, a couple milliliters of freaking a nerve block.
Yeah.
And for less than $50, you could save somebody's life and give them their life back.
Yeah.
My bad. I knew I was probably going to go on some
No, I
tirade,
mean,
but
just nailed that, right? Like, what do we do for gunshots, heart attacks? There's an intervention, right? You don't tell someone, hey, go talk to someone, you'll fix your gunshot. Trauma
right.
is physiological as well as psychological, right? You can't just be like, oh, take the pill, everything will be better. Most of the medication they give you prevents you from processing trauma. And you can't process trauma when you're currently in trauma, right? So if you're chronically stressed or always waiting for the hammer to drop in your environment, your nervous system goes, I'm not safe. So you don't process and work through things that are in the rearview mirror when you're in a current state of stress. The nervous system is designed not to do that, right? Like it compartmentalizes for a reason to keep you alive. And if you want to go back there in that rucksack and process those things, you need to be a safe, certain environment, right? Like you need to know things are going to be provided for you. That doesn't exist in the military context, right? Every day you're, like you said, hierarchical stress. Someone controls your outcomes. Your schedule's provided for you. Your missions are provided for you, right? Like you don't have a say. That's it. The only time you have a say in the military is when you are downrange and the enemy's shooting at you and you can fight back, right? Other than that, do what the hell you're told or your career is over, right? That's hierarchical stress. That's powerless, helpless, hopeless. That's the worst form of stress you can endure as a human being, right? That's like rape. That's like a psychological abuse, all those things right there. It's the same type of stress. Your body doesn't know. Always go back to the SEER school study when they looked at people who were put in an environment where their fate was uncertain, even though it's in a resistance training lab, it's a controlled environment. The nervous system doesn't know the difference. And they saw the highest ever recorded levels of cortisol in human history and castration levels of testosterone in a 3-week program, right? Now, that's like, think about that. And imagine they say when you are going through that, it's worse than open heart surgery. So think of the effects of being helpless, hopeless, and powerless. Like I said, sexual abuse, rape, emotional abuse, like those things have a horrible effect on the body. I see it every day in female clients in the military sexual trauma, childhood sexual abuse, autoimmune conditions, POTS, all these different histamine intolerance, MCAS. I see it every day. I had 3 this week who had postural orthostatic hypertension, ulcerative colitis, name your autoimmune condition, right? Like hives, rashes, all these things. It's from the same reason. It's unresolved trauma that's physiologically manifesting, right? Their nervous system's been on guard for so long that it affects immune function. And then by the time you hit 40, your immune system's so weak from constantly being responsive to all those things that you can't fight back from those things anymore, right? So we see it all the time, more in females than I do in males, but women take on the weight of the world. They take everyone's problems, they're nurturing, naturing, but men were like, fuck your feelings. I don't want to feel those things. Till it gets to the point where that doesn't work anymore. And like I said, you feel like you're having a seizure or a panic attack and you're like, oh, guess that doesn't work anymore. We got to go do something. So, but yeah, man, you're dead on.
Yeah, and so thank you. And kind of transitioning forward, you've gone through multiple transitions through your life. So for you, you got put on a good track. You got to get evaluated by a lot of places. You were used as that case study. You developed that plan moving forward. So part of that fed into your new mission. And you touched on it a little bit. You founded the SOF Health Initiatives program within the Task Force Dagger bubble while you're still on active duty.
Mhm.
So this directly connects operators to cutting edge treatments. Sometimes they're unavailable through the VA, DoD, like hyperbaric oxygen therapy, heavy metal detox, IV ketamine infusions. Why are these treatments so critical for the operator syndrome that you've helped define?
I'll expand on that too. We also help enablers, support personnel, and family members too. But the biggest thing, right? I want you to think of military medicine with your background, right? We're the experts in trauma response, right? We don't look at anything proactive and preventive. We help people after they're injured. And readiness is the top priority in the military, right? It's not make you feel good at anything. It's are you deployable? Yes or no. And so when you have all these problems, right, in the military, and you're like, I've got this ouchie, I got this boo boo, this pain, this migraine. They're like, look, dude, you don't have cancer, you don't have heart disease, you don't have liver disease, you don't have kidney disease, you don't have diabetes or Alzheimer's. You're good. You're ready, right? We'll manage all the pain with medications. We'll manage the blood pressure. We'll manage the cholesterol. We'll manage the erectile dysfunction and all the other things that go along with stress. But we won't address the root causes of the dysfunction
Right.
and fix you, right? There's no fixing, it's managing, it's disease care. And unfortunately, or fortunately, like we're a war fighting function and we have to be that way, right? But I want you to think about one of the first soft truths: humans are more important than hardware. Humans are more important than hardware. Our hardware has all the checks and services, right? Your weapons, your radios, your vehicles, all those things have to be looked at regularly. They have to be checked, function checked, and then they have to pass a test to get back out operational, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't have that.
Right.
Literally, you do your entry physical at MEPS. If you go in special operations, you get a flight and dive physical. Every 5 years, you have to get a flight and dive physical to stay current. And then it's over 40 transition. You're telling me humans are more important than hardware? Nowhere in that schedule is in the calendar is there maintenance put in there. It's all PT, PT, PT. That's not physical therapy. That's physical training. But there's no recovery built in our schedule. And so,
Right.
how do you expect us to go? It's like flying an F-22 for 20 years and like kicking the tires and looking under the wings, right? Like, how the hell you expect us to do that and function here where you need us to be without any of that, right? That's where the human performance and wellness programs came in because they understood that. But even with those programs in place, Total Force Fitness, H2F, and all these other big programs, maintenance is the least of the priority on there. It's the strength and conditioning coaches that get all the attention and the love, right? But there's none of that stuff in there that's like the dietitian always gets stuffed in the corner,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they can run labs and look at all the things that keep us going, our fueling, right? And, you don't race a Formula F1 race car on shit gas, pump gas, right? Like you can't expect us as Formula One race cars to live off Red Bull and beef jerky and whiskey. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We did
Yeah.
it, but a testament to resiliency and human physiology. We're still here, but that's not the way, man. Look at pro athletes. They don't live the same way we do in the military. And our consequences of a bad day on the field means death, right? So
Right.
it's high stakes game, and we should be putting the same time and energy and effort into recovering us and healing us and making sure we heal faster. I'll go to your HBOT comment, right? Like that's a big point of contention across the entire spectrum between the VA's bogus bullshit study. And it's like, what is HBOT FDA approved for? Wound care,
Yeah.
carbon,
And
carbon monoxide
yeah,
poisoning, a couple other things, right? But when you get a
dive
burn
injuries or
patient,
whatever.
yeah, when you get a burn patient, what do you do to them? You put them in oxygen, right? Put
Yep.
them in a bubble.
Yep.
And what does that oxygen do? It heals wounds and prevents
Hmm.
infection. So imagine dudes that are constantly breaking bones, tearing joints. The number one cause of medical discharge is musculoskeletal injuries, right? Recovery, lack
Hmm.
of recovery, chronic injuries, right? And we have this tool that we could put people in post surgery to help them recover probably 30 to 50% faster. Anecdotally speaking, on my own experience using it twice to recover from surgeries, like, why the hell wouldn't we do that? We pump them full ibuprofen, which, by the way, prevents bone from healing. Like, like we were doing
Right.
it wrong the whole time, but we had
Right.
tools in place. The science is simple that getting exposed to more oxygen helps you heal wounds. TBI is a brain wound, right? It's a same inflammatory process. It's just not your ankle or your knee, it's your brain that's inflamed. So why wouldn't we put somebody in the same type of environment to heal it? It's wound care. Don't get me started in that, but I'm just going to use that for anybody listening. The common sense meter doesn't match, right? But anyway, non-standard of care, going back to my original point, is you're not going to find that type of help in the system because it's geared towards traumatic injuries, right? Like we have some of the best surgeons in the world that can put you back together, missing arms and limbs and all that, but they're not checking you for cancer. They're not looking at toxic exposures. They're not looking at pathogens. The shit we picked up in Africa and Asia, like they've never seen in the United States. Like infectious disease screening in us was non existent. Hey, take your pills before you go, take them when you get back, you'll be fine. We found river flukes, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Lyme disease. It's not like we don't spend a lot of time in the woods, but we're finding all these things when we do actually do infectious disease screening on people that have been complaining of autoimmune conditions, chronic pain, neurological stuff for years. Ask anyone who's had Lyme disease, right? What that feels like. Oh, it's all in your head. You're depressed. You're anxious. You can't be in pain. You look fine. Like, and they have Lyme disease and they've been blown off and gaslit for years.
Yeah.
Same thing when we find river flukes and parasites and fungal infections and all kinds of weird shit we brought home. And
Right.
dude, when you help somebody and you provide them that level of care that they've never had and they find what's going on with them and resolve it, that's game changing, right? Like that's why we have a waiting list to come in our program because you're living proof, right? Like
Yeah.
we provide that level of care to, we're not putting tape over the check engine light. We're looking for the root cause of dysfunction. We're helping resolve it. And then you go back and you live better, right? You heal
Yeah.
faster, you perform better, and you're going to spend more time in uniform. So we're not trying to take people out and tell them, oh, you can't do this job. It's dangerous. You're going to get all these things. It's like, no, dude, like we wear personal protective equipment fucking mass, right? Because this pandemic that had a death rate of less than 1%, not even a fraction of that. But it's like we
Right.
put all this effort into doing that. But yeah, you guys go to Africa and huff in toxic food and shit contaminated water and food and
Yeah.
all these things, and we won't even look at it. We'll
Yeah.
pretend it doesn't exist.
Pay into this insurance policy that's designed to give you health care when you need it. And then
Yeah.
as soon as you say, hi, I'm sick, can I get some help?
Yeah.
Denied.
Yeah. It's insane, right? Like for me, it's baffling. Like it's like we spend so well, I know why it is. You can look at the pharmaceutical industry because they're benefiting off all of us being sick. It's like there's no incentive to heal or fix people. We have disease care. We don't have health care. Until that changes, we're going to be on the back end of the receiving mode of reacting to everything happening to us, right?
Right.
There's nothing in there to teach you how to repair, maintain, and operate yourself. I call
Right.
it, that's the book I'm writing, the operator manual. But it's like, we
Awesome.
should know. It's like, go back to rifle marksmanship. Like, before you get weapons and go out on patrol, you got to have some type of baseline training, right? Familiarization. Like, you have to learn about the weapon system, how it operates, right? Function checking. And you have to know the components of it, how to assemble and disassemble it. and clean it and maintain it, right? And then most importantly, how to identify and correct malfunctions, like tap, rack, bang, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
we know that about our weapons, but when we're malfunctioning, there's no tap, rack, bang. It's, oh, you're malfunctioning, take a pill. Did you clear the
Yeah.
round out?
If
Is that thing
if
still
if
stovepipe?
you get to the doctor to give you that pill.
Right. So what do? We self medicate. We do what
Yep.
we, hey man, I have pain. How do I get rid of pain? Oh, I have anxiety. How do I get rid of anxiety? And you wonder why dudes are self medicating with drugs, alcohol, and women to try to make themselves feel better. They're trying to get out of suffering, right? There's a reason why the number one cause of death in the United States is opioids for military age males. And number two is suicide for military age males. Look that one up, CDC, right? That's pretty bad, dude. What does suicide and opioid addiction have in common?
Looking for a way out. Looking for
Escape of suffering and pain, right?
yeah,
Okay, so how about we address the suffering and pain so people don't have to kill themselves or get addicted to drugs?
big time.
Yeah, like
Big
okay,
time.
where are we at with? I know a problem now to solve that. Let's give them more pills. Like,
Right. Yeah. Let's just mix them all in there. Just throw a whole bunch of these things in there and see what
yeah,
shakes out.
also known as
Um,
throwing darts, right? Like no precision involved whatsoever. It's like imagine if we plan and conducted missions the same way they do medicine. Oh, yeah, we'll drop a JDAM on that compound. We got them good. If not, we'll just keep dropping JDAMs on the other compounds until we
right.
get them. That's conventional medicine. That's allopathic medicine, and
Yeah.
there's no precision to it whatsoever. So,
It's
um,
crazy.
yeah. So, I
So,
mean, we're going that direction now. The precision medicine initiative. Everyone knows that, hey, what we did for the many years didn't work. Let's go a different direction. So we're not trying to knock down those doors anymore. Everyone's demanding that level of care. So mission success on that one, brother.
nice. Yeah. So that leads into just kind of a little bit of my story. Like you talked about the infectious disease and how you're helping people find things. It was through the Task Force Dagger Foundation. I was seeing Dr. Gabrielle Lyon for a brief period there in between deployments. Like I said, it was like, hey, band aid, see what you need to get referrals for and move on. And they did a great job. So they found, hey, I got multiple types of parasites, got me on a protocol for that. You know what I mean? So we started moving forward. So you've gotten tons of feedback from veterans in pitch situations like myself, and even beyond that, where you and your foundation literally saved their life. So, how does it feel to know that the system you built from your own struggle is now the lifeline for some of our brothers in arms?
Right? It's why I was put on this planet, right? You figure out your purpose and your path. And it's like,